We're going to go ahead and work on a multi-view projection of this isometric object. Now this is going to confuse you because it's one of the first objects you've seen with dimensioning in it. And if we pay attention, it's basically laid out in quarter-inch increments. You can see 0.75, 0.5, 1.25, 0.75. And this is great because your paper is laid out in a quarter-inch grid. Each one of these boxes are a quarter-inch. So let's just go through and give this a start. I like to decide always which one is my front view. This gives us the most information. So this is going to be my front. I'm going to make that my front. This coming straight down will be my top, and that right there will be my side. So with my front, it goes down in the lower left-hand corner, and I'm going to start with an origin point, which I'm going to put right there. And I can see with the dimensioning, it's a quarter-inch thick plate. So I'm going to make a line right there, and I can see that it goes over 1.75. So if you have difficulty with math, remember each one of these is a quarter of an inch. So there will be 1, 2, 3, 4 in an inch. That's an inch, and then 1, 2, 3 to make it 1.75. So I'm going to draw my line, and I'll be using a triangle as well to help me connect some of these. Okay, so that's my base plate. Now next, I have this center section right here. And it looks like it's on center, and according to the dimensions, it's 0.75 wide. So I need to figure out how to do this. Here's the center right there. And for it to be 0.75 wide, that's 3 squares. So I go over 1, 1. That would be a ½ inch. And then, there we go. 1 square, 2 square, 3 squares. So, right there, those points are 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch wide. Now I need to look how tall it is, and this dimension right here tells me that from the base up it's 1.25 tall. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, that's an inch, 1.25. So I'm going to draw some very light construction lines just to lay it out here. Okay, I'm not sure how well it shows up. Now it says, let's see, it's a rounded top right here. So we have to see if there's a radius marking whatsoever. And I don't see a radius. So what I'm going to do with that is just, oh, here we go. It's 0.25 down. So this dimension right here and that dimension is 0.25, which means it's right there and right there. So I have a center mark, which is right there, goes 0.25 down, 0.25 down, which means I can freehand a radius right there. It's not perfect, but it's okay. I'm going to darken these lines up on the sides, so they will be my object lines, just like so. Now we have this cutout, which is called a mortise to contend with. And if I look at the dimensions, it's 0.25 wide, and it's 0.25 from the edge, and it's 0.5 down. So if we look at this, it gets confusing. It's 0.25 right here, and that's 0.25 from the top. So there to there is 0.25. And then it's a ½ inch long, so 1, 2, which is a ½ inch. It's 0.25 wide, which is one of these grids. So I'm going to lay out some rough construction lines, make sure that I'm right, and if I am right, I will make them into object lines. So yeah, everything looks good. So I'm going to darken these up, make them object lines. right there. So make sure we've got all the detail, and we do. Okay, now next comes our top view. And if you remember for the top view, we're going to take and transfer all of our details with just some very light construction lines. I'm not sure how well they'll show up on the film, but they are there. And my construction lines are just going on all the detail. Okay, so I have my construction, and I'm going to go ahead and pick an origin point, which I will label my origin point right there. This origin point corresponds to that point. And I remember this plate is 1.75, so 1, 2, 3, 4, that's an inch. 3 more, which also correspond to my construction lines. And we'll make a nice dark object line right there. And it is 0.75 wide, which is 3 pieces. So 1, 2, 3. So I can 1, 2, 3. Can make some nice dark object lines here. Just like so. Now, let's see. In my drawing, this detail is connected with the back. So, let's see. I need to find out how wide it is this way. Okay, so there's the dimension. It's a 1/2 inch wide. So what I can do is mark it out. It's a 1/2 inch from the back. Here's the back. 1, 2 is a 1/2 inch. 1, 2 is a 1/2 inch. Corresponds with my construction lines. So I can take and give myself a nice heavy dark object line right there, which is a 1/2 inch corresponding with this detail. Right there corresponds with that detail. I can close my shape. Now next we have this mortise, and if you remember, this is a through mortise. This cutout goes through, and for that we need to use a hidden line. And a hidden line are the dashes, remember. And you'll notice they stop at the object lines. Just like so. So this is our front, that's our top. Now we have to do our side, and if you remember with the side, we're going to start off with some construction lines. Very light going across. And we do that with all of our detail. Okay, so our front view, I'm going to start with an origin point which is right there, just like so, and it goes 1/4 inch up. Okay, so I got a nice heavy dark object. It goes 3/4 inch over, so another heavy dark object line right there, and I can make these construction lines darker object lines. Just like so. Now next, I'm going to tackle this side right here, which is 1 1/4 inch up. So 1, 2, 3, 4 1/4 corresponding with my object lines. So that is going to go just like so. Because we can't draw a curve this way, it's going to look just like a solid line, so that's going to be confusing for you. And if you remember, it's a 1/2 inch wide, so it's a 1/2 inch from this point. 2 grids over are a 1/2 inch. So I can close that in, just like so. Give myself a dark object line up top. And then with the mortise, we have to have some hidden lines. So there we go. We have a front, we have a top, and we have a side. This is an extremely complicated drawing. It's the first time we're working with dimensioning. So stop this, rewind it, and replay it as many times as you need to get this right.